Managing your life as an entrepreneur can be tricky. I think everyone knows that being an entrepreneur comes with lots of highs and lots of lows. The thing I always find most difficult to manage is the days where you have the highs and the lows in the same day, and that happens pretty frequently. And it's important to develop routines or coping mechanisms around these things to keep yourself fresh. One of the things is the ability to draw some boundaries around my time. In the early days when I was single, I pretty much worked all the time, but I was very disciplined about taking long, unplugged vacations every year. At least 1 2-week vacation and probably a couple of week-long vacations where no one would hear from me and I would just disappear. Now with the family, we do take some trips, although vacations are a little bit different and I don't mind necessarily doing a little bit of work on them sometimes. But now my hard line has been much more around weekends and making sure that I have time on the weekends for my family. A second important thing is making sure that I have time to do things I want to do. I'll quote my friend Kevin Ryan, who's another CEO in the New York tech scene of actually multiple companies over the years, who has this great saying, which is, you can do anything you want, you just can't do everything you want. I've always found it very important to maintain some friendships, to maintain some hobbies and some interests, whatever the things are that are most important to me. You can't do all of them all the time because you do have lots of obligations at work, but being able to maintain some of them and some semblance of your own identity is very important. I think one of the most valuable things that I've learned how to do over the years is work really well with an executive assistant. Now, it can be very tempting, especially in the early days of a company, to say that you don't need an assistant or you don't want an assistant. Either because you want to send a message to the organization that, hey, there's nothing beneath you, or because you think the things that I'm going to have an assistant do are not particularly important or there aren't that many of them. And I would urge you to resist those temptations. Even if you think nothing is beneath you, it doesn't mean that you don't need help. And if you think about it, your scarcest resource is your time. I realized several years ago when my assistant Andrea went on maternity leave, just how valuable a person she was in my life. And I estimated in the 4 months that she was out that I spent 3 to 4 hours a day doing work that I was otherwise handing off to her. And that work still had to get done. And what that meant was I either wasn't doing other things or I was just working a lot longer. Getting good at delegating things to an assistant and getting comfortable with the fact that even handing off tasks that might only take you 5 minutes, 3 minutes, that work adds up over time. I've also found that there are lots of different models for assistants, and again, there's not a right answer to it, but you have to find one that's right for you. For a long time in my career, the model was hire someone right out of college who didn't really want to be an assistant but wanted to get a foot in the door, and you'd work with them and train them up over the course of 12 to 18 months and graduate them into another job in the company. They would be responsible for hiring and replacing themselves and training a replacement. About 10 years ago, I hired an assistant who was not quite that model. She said, no, I think this is a really interesting job. I'd love to watch you and help you in any way I can run the company, and I'm happy to do that for a long time. My assistant and I just celebrated our 10th anniversary together, and it's been a fantastic partnership. And one of the great things about having her work with me that long is she's just accumulated more and more and more responsibilities over time because she gets more and more productive and efficient at the things that she's doing, and she's gotten to the point where she can anticipate a whole lot of things here. When you have that model, you end up paying the person a lot more money over time, but you also get a lot more value out of them.